tonight's topic is trace, face, and replace. And I think a lot of you guys are really familiar with that. Yeah, so we just want to go through that. What is trace, face, and replace? To start with, right, I just want to share a story. I met a guy, a guy I never met, obviously, and he gave me a call, and I had such a long counseling session with him on the first call. And after listening to him for an hour, I said to him, mate, it sounds like your mind's been running you around like crazy. But anyway, I had 3 sessions with him in a period of 3 weeks. And I actually gave him some homework. And I said, well, try to look into this, and then come back and we will talk again. So after 3 sessions, he told me, he said, hey, look, Stan, he said, I counted it. We had 5 hours together. And these 5 hours absolutely changed the way I thought about myself. And I said, well, at the end of the day, you're the one who did the mental work. We teach about these things to a lot of different people, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to that person. Does he want to do the mental work? How are you going to deal with it? Or do you deal with it? Or do you just ignore it? Because we can teach, but at the end of the day, you're the one who has to do the mental work. So guess what I taught him? Basically, I just taught him how to trace, face, and replace. So John chapter 8 in verse 32, it says, the truth will set you free, Jesus said. Meaning the truth will set you free from lies and misbeliefs. And so why do we have to reject lies? It's not just because the devil is the father of all lies that we have to reject him. Of course, that's part of it. But it's because this is how we put off our old self. And this is how we put on a new self in Christ. This is how we do it. And why do we need to embrace the truth? And guess what? Because Jesus said he is the truth. So when you embrace the truth, that means you embrace Jesus. When we speak the truth, we are actually speaking Jesus. So he's got the monopoly. But what if we don't mention the name of Jesus? I said, look, if you speak the truth, he claims the monopoly. He gets the credits. He gets the glory. Does that make sense? Yeah. But yes, the truth has a name, and his name is simple. So what is trace, face, and replace? It's a process of identifying and confronting your foundational misbeliefs. Meaning, people can have a powerful encounter with God and they can still go back to their own bad habits, right? Christians can read the Bible and they can still struggle to get on with their family. People can love God, but they can still hurt themselves and others. What does that mean? That means like Jerry mentioned the other day, the basement of their soul. There's something is still in the foundational level of their souls that have not been dealt with. If you want to make lasting changes, you have to change at the foundational level of your soul or in the basement of your soul. And if you want change, that's how we do it. That's how we do it. And the key is trace, face, and replace. And remember, our beliefs are formed throughout lives, right? The earlier those beliefs developed, the stronger they become. So the strongest beliefs were formed in our childhood. Things that were said to you when you were 5, things that happened to you when you were 7, or traumatic situations that you experienced when you were probably under 8. And the thing is that when you experienced those things, when you were so young that you didn't have the words to make healthy conclusion. If those foundational beliefs were wrong, they will run you wild like a crazy horse in your mind. And it has to change. If that happens to you, you need to be able to identify that to find some changes. Otherwise, it's going to keep going and going in your mind. But you can't change it by layering something new on top. You can't just say, oh, well, let's just introduce some new ideas. Things like rigid instructions, New Year's resolutions, cheap repentance, unrealistic religious teachings, changing the way you talk or the way you act, or just sheer willpower. None of these things will work long term. And eventually, you will get exhausted and you will go back to what you truly, truly believe deep down. You can't ignore it and you can't write it off either because they are too deeply ingrained. It's going to pop up again, and again. So, yeah, and so the only way to change them is to take them out, to replace them with truth, and this is how you break free, and this is how you change for good. Yeah. So I just want to define quickly what is trace, face, and replace. So trace is, what am I really telling myself? What is in the subconscious? You can ask yourself, so what am I really saying when I'm saying something? What am I really telling myself when I'm telling you something? Because I remember someone who always wants to be right. So that person will just fight and fight and fight. But deep down, that person is actually telling himself or herself that I just want to be right. So that's why there's a need for us to revisit our core beliefs and our subconscious thoughts. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why to unearth underlying assumptions, right? Ask yourself why all the time. And because if you don't watch out, your assumption will make a ASS out of you. So watch out for your assumption. Use empowering questions to raise self-awareness and to catch misbeliefs. Like questions like, why do I cave every time? Why don't I speak up every time? Why do I have to talk like I'm fighting every time? Why? Because the other person doesn't listen. Why? Because I got tired of that person. Why? So you have to go a little bit more deeper to really ask yourself those annoying questions. Okay? So yeah, trace. And then the next one is face. It's time to challenge the wrong things I've been telling myself. So remember, trace is, what am I really telling myself, right? Face is to challenge the wrong things that I've been telling myself. Acknowledge the whole problem of one lie leads to another wrong decision, leads to another wrong things. You're going to acknowledge that sometimes it can be a whole cobweb of prince lies under one king lie. And sometimes it's terrible, when we have to acknowledge like shameful things like that. But if you can come to that place, there's honesty, there's grace for you. Okay, face. Distinguish whether the belief is my friend or my enemy. Because God can only deliver you from your enemy, but he can't deliver you from your friend. Another one, uncover what is buried in your subconscious. Sometimes when you realize that you actually have a lot of loss in your life, sometimes we actually don't want to face it because it's just too painful. Loss of childhood, because of foolish decisions. And it's hard to go back and think, this is such a bad debt. I really don't want to look at it. There's something about facing it, okay? Just to be really upfront. Maybe you have to grieve over the loss of opportunities and so forth. Okay, replace. Replaces, what is the truth that I need to tell myself instead? What is the truth that I need to tell myself instead? Renounce what is no longer believable. Maybe something was believable when you were young, but now is no longer valid, is no longer legit, is no longer believable. So you have to revise that. Apply accurate truth insights or truth coaches to a specific context. Okay, you might feel horrified to realize that you made a wrong conclusion about something or about yourself when you were young. It's shocking, but remember, it's not that frightening. And it's okay because now you can revise the wrong conclusion, with the truth, with Jesus, right? So, yeah, we all have to do that. So, yeah, so from experience, some people do change and some people don't. And those who change have 4 things in place to motivate them. So I want to share these things called the 4 conditions for change. The word trauma in Greek means wounds or wound, a wound or wounds. When we say, oh yeah, it's a trauma, that means like you're wounded in the heart. But the thing is that even you might be wounded, but you don't have to stay wounded. Okay? Only forever scarred, but are you okay with that? So this is something that you have to reconcile. Your scar might be a bit sensitive, but it's only a bit sensitive. Are you okay with that? Okay? Ask yourself, what if my scar could become my star. Are you okay with that? The 4 conditions for change is number 1, pain. I like this one the best because I think I use this on myself all the time. What does that mean? Pain is persistently and painfully pushing you to face the truth. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 in verse 16, it says, we have small troubles for a little while, but these troubles are helping us gain an eternal glory. That eternal glory is much greater than our present troubles. So the word eternal glory, I would say the pain can actually get you to get some eternal perspectives. And these perspectives are better than the troubles that you are going through right now, right? They can actually get you through. So what I mean by pain is that think about some consequences. And I found that a lot of young men, they don't know how to do it. They just say, I just feel like to do it. Have you thought about this? Learn to think about consequences, both put the potential ones and the past ones, the wrong decisions or the hurt that could affect yourself or your loved ones. Things like the guilt, the condemnation, the loss of childhood, like if it's something bigger, loss of trust, broken relationships, loss of money, loss of options, a mushy mind, unproductiveness, or you have to pretend to get by. So before you do anything, think about some painful consequences. Would there be a painful consequence for me if I do this? So sometimes you do have to ask yourself, do you want that? At the end of the reflection, you have to ask yourself, do I want that? No. Okay. You have to, sometimes you have to shout to yourself, no, I don't want that. Say like back then with our business, or if I promise too much and I can't deliver it, and then I would stress out the team. And then my wife would say, oh, why did you promise that? And then I couldn't deliver it. And then the client would go, where's my product? Right? So I can't be on the spot feeling like, oh, I have to say yes all the time. I have to stop and say, okay, well, I need to give you a little bit more details. I need to be a little bit more brave to say, no, I can't deliver tomorrow. David Riddell actually said one time, he said, consequences or pain are like dogs barking at you until you yield to the truth, until you surrender to God, until you are willing to make some good changes. Okay, so imagine that pain, imagine what sort of pain that will cost you, and will it help you to change? So can pain force you to make healthy decisions? The second one is hope. Hope means tomorrow won't be a repeat of the past. A lot of people, they can't see that future could be better. Because why? Because they're hopeless. They don't have hope. So I want to encourage you that your future holds no past. Your past holds no future. You might be forever scarred, but you don't have to be forever wounded. And remember, if you have a dream for yourself, you can become that dream yourself. And can you actually picture yourself as a loving, caring, generous, deeply affectionate person? Can you actually picture yourself as full of love, full of understanding, full of wisdom, integrity? Can you actually picture yourself that the favor of God is on my life? The favor of man is on me because I walk faithfully before the Lord. You see, there's hope right there. Can you actually imagine that you can have a sense of godly innocence and righteousness even after you make some terrible mistakes or you sinned? Can you imagine that? You can go back to God, reach out back to Jesus, and you can actually receive that. A lot of people, when they made a mistake and they feel guilty, and they can never go back to that sense of innocence. Therefore, they feel like they are forever broken. But you can actually recover that spiritually. So imagine being respected because of your character. Imagine living a life of fearless or guilt-free life with clear conscience. Even no one will acknowledge you, but you just know that, hey, look, my conscience is clear and I'm good. Can you imagine your family and your children respect you? Imagine your family can be the best friends. Some families, they're so drifted apart that they can't even talk. Can you imagine that the life that you live right now can actually impact 4 generations down the track? The godly decisions, the price that you are paying right now, the sacrifice that you make in order to develop a godly character, the faithfulness that you are carrying without people acknowledging you. You are just doing it unto the Lord. I want my life to be able to impact 4 generations down. Right? That's my hope. That's my hope, actually. What is your hope? Whenever you feel like you have to grow and you have to confront the misbeliefs, whenever you feel shameful or guilty, what is the hope that can actually pull you through? The third thing is love. This is something that we all need, particularly to be able to have someone big in your life who's really pleased by your progress, right? Do you have a hero? Do you have someone who you can look up to? Or do you have someone who means a lot to you, right? Remember, as a kid, you always want to please your parents. Is that right? Because you want to, oh, Dad, look at my drawing, Mom, look at my exam marks. What does that mean? Intrinsically, as children or children of God, we actually want to please someone. So do you have someone, that you can look up to and they are pleased with your progress? Do you have someone who loves you enough to confront your issues, to walk with you, to believe in the ability that you can change? And motivation grows when you have someone who loves you into change. And the opposite is that motivation dies when there is no one to love you into change. Does that make sense? So 2 honorable mentions that I want to mention. You should never neglect and you should never forget the greatest person that you can look up to is Jesus. And the second, probably the greatest person that I would like you to look up to believe that that person can look after you is you yourself. Remember, you have to look after yourself. You have to, find that peace within yourself. Otherwise, you are the one who has to confront yourself, right? You are the one who has to confront yourself, right? So how to? That's the fourth one. So the first one is pain. The second one is hope. The third one is love. The fourth one is how to. How to means to have the tools to find changes. Okay. So one thing that I can share with you is to come to House Church. It's going to take the whole year to teach you how to. So I'm going to leave it there. So are you feeling the pain of not changing? Do you have hope knowing that you can change, you can grow, you can be someone you want to be, you can be someone who you love to be, and you can work with the things that you love to work with, and you can work with someone you love? You can. Do you have someone who loves you through all this, and will be pleased by your progress? And I think that's why learn to be more generous and extravagant in complimenting other people. If they did something well, be generous with your praise. So trace the lie, face the lie, and replace the lie with truth. That's my talk. Any questions? Any immediate response?